Hey everybody, PJ back now in our second segment of how to actually spec a car. In today's review, we're not actually going to review any specific car in general, but we're going to look at all of my cars and what makes an OEM Plus configuration as it comes to modifications. Now, many of you have watched in the previous video where I showed you basically the guideline on how to spec a car or what makes a car a great spec. Now today though, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the cars here in the garage and how they were specifically modified for what I consider to be either an OEM Plus look, a hyper modification, or really looking at subtle modifications to make a big difference. So let's walk outside, take a look at my collection of cars and specifically review each and the modifications that were done to each and every car. So in this garage, you've already seen this when I gave you a garage update of some of the cars I have here. We're going to basically look at how to take some of the best cars out there and keep the simplest modifications to ensure maximum value. Now, one of the big mistakes people make when they modify cars is they typically modify them for their own liking. They go, it's my car, I gotta love it. But one of the things that happen when you do that is you ultimately destroy not just the car, but the resale value of the car, because the majority of people don't necessarily have your taste. So it's very important to understand that if you're not a design-driven person and don't understand how to leverage art in cars, then you have to basically understand how to not destroy your car by modifying it too much. I like to use a rule basically called the OEM Plus rule, is you take basically the baseline of what you've been given and you ensure a balance of design and function. So for the most part, when you look at a car, is you look at, its design and its intended use. Nobody wants a really, really beautiful car that looks really fast but can't actually handle or perform. It's the same logic as you wouldn't want a really hot wife who doesn't know how to fuck. It doesn't work, right? So it only works in harmony when the beauty matches the capacity. So one of the big mistakes you'll see is, for example, on a Rolls-Royce Ghost, you'll see people putting 24-inch rims, which destroys the car and completely destroys the ride quality. So here you take this function, which of a Rolls is supposed to be comfort, and beauty and elegance and just basically floating into life without feeling the road, and then you put wheels on that basically destroy the actual car itself and the ride quality, right? So with the Ghost, you don't want to do that. You just don't want to do that. It's like putting triple D tits on a 100-pound chick. It just doesn't work. It's like way over the top. You have to kind of balance it out. And so if you're going to modify things, you have to make sure the modifications are tasteful and of course match the function of the item. So the way we look at that again is, SUVs with 28-inch wheels, or taking a Lamborghini Urus and putting huge wheels on it that make it very undrivable in the rain or make it just so low to the ground that it's impossible to basically drive it anywhere, takes away the essence of an SUV. So therefore you limit the pool of buyers. So the first car we're going to look at right here is this 720S Le Mans. This is one of 50 Le Mans made in 2021, and it comes specifically modified as a Le Mans edition with Le Mans wheels, Le Mans brake calipers, and some vents and hood scoops, etc., that differentiates from 720S. One of the biggest arguments people have here with me is that, well, I don't like the Le Mans wheels. But then the question is, why would you buy a Le Mans car if you don't like the wheels? Because this is what the car is. Its heritage is not for everybody, but whoever it's for, this is what gives it its appeal. So no, it would be ignorant to buy a Le Mans car and park the wheels and then put non-Le Mans wheels on it, because that would counteract the whole idea of the car itself. Now here, one of the things you have to look at when buying a Le Mans is that this is a very limited car. And whenever cars are very limited in nature based on being numbered, you hardly want to modify them from their original configuration. So one of the only mods that was done to this car in order to ensure its longevity and of course, more importantly, its actual compliance to what the car was from a resale standpoint, is to do a small modification that many people may have missed. And that is to simply upgrade the tires from the regular Pirelli P0s to the Trofeo R tires. Now, why do we do that? Because the Le Mans car originally was really a race car. And here, they basically toned it down. And so the only change here was a set of $3,500 tires right from the beginning, to just give the car its true racing look, and that's it. It doesn't need to get lowered, nothing else is needed. Now, if I was to do one more modification to this car, the only modification I could do is change this very ugly plastic piece here while conserving it into a carbon piece to basically match the vents in the front, and that is it. There is nothing else that needs to be done for this car to really give it that perfect look or to enhance its value, and this is why we call this an OEM Plus, a very slight modification that remains within the OEM specs of the car. Now, let's take a look at this Lamborghini Urus. On the surface, again, this is a very high-spec Urus with very, very minimal mods. The car is not lowered, it is down on its Corsa mode, which it brings it down to a very low mode. There are, however, subtle modifications onto this outside of the spec. You'll see the matte PPF here basically gives the car a very matte white look and actually enhances value. Now, this is not a wrap, this is PPF, which is basically clear bra in matte finish to take the original paint into matte while protecting the entire car. You can get this done for $4,000 to $5,000 to matte a car in its original color, and this increases the value because this film actually protects the car, unlike a wrap, which covers the paint in a different color. Now, so you can clearly see the paint quality under. This helps a lot. In this particular case, some of the changes in what I've done is I've left the gloss parts basically gloss here, and I've made the paint matte. In addition to that, I've gotten these forks here black to basically give it a very, very mean look, and I added a Vorsteiner front carbon fiber lip and some 1016 parts around wherever there was silver and the diffuser to basically make them carbon. Now, the limited amount of carbon on this car means that it wouldn't have made sense to do everything carbon, and so I kept one piece of carbon on the side, on the back, and then on the front. This gives me what I consider an OEM Plus again, a much more aggressive front end because I was never a fan of how the Urus looked, without going too low, preventing ground clearance. Some additional very minor tweaks to give the car a much more aggressive look and allowing the spec to basically shine, not taking away from the car being white, but rather enhancing these features while adding very few elements to really push out the design of the car. These very minor tweaks are, once more, an OEM Plus design. Now, I could put 24-inch wheels, I could make it wide body, etc., but here's where design meets function. This is a daily driver for me. This is not a car that I plan to collect. This is a car I plan to drive every day. Why would I want a car that's wide body kitted, etc., where I can't park it anywhere? I can't take it if I want to drive to Miami. If I drive through a lot of rain, I'm going to be pissed if things get damaged. So again, I have to understand function first because it's a daily driver. And here, we left the factory 23-inch wheels because they look great, they're fantastic, and it matches the car very, very well. Here on this side, we have a Ferrari Pista with a very unique one-of-one tailor-made package. Now on the surface again, this basically looks completely stock, but it's not. And I'm going to show you again where we get very, very different in the way the car looks. So we take a perfect spec. This is what I consider to be one of the most flawless Pista specs in the world. This is my opinion. You may not like it, but like everything else, if you're not spending your own $600K, you can fuck off. So we take painted shields here that are very, very beautiful, $40,000 option. I've shown you on the other YouTube what this car is. But some of the modifications here you don't notice. Again, this is where OEM Plus comes into the game, is you're not supposed to realize that the car is modified. It's supposed to look like it came from the factory that way. And here you'll see that the car is lowered just a little bit, but this sitting on Novitec springs allows just that little bit to come out, and beautiful Novitec spacers to bring it down with titanium bolts. Now, this is a big deal because, again, you get a perfect stance, not slammed, just lowered enough to really give it like a more racy and better look, and you have subtle differences in impact, such as an exhaust system. No one will notice. Again, the car's supposed to sound loud, fantastic, but you also get other things people aren't paying attention to, like these mirrors on the surface saying, well, wait a minute, these mirrors, I thought the whole car was carbon. Yes, the whole car came with carbon, but the mirrors weren't offered. So the mirrors are actually Capristo carbon mirrors that match one-to-one to the actual carbon fiber on the actual car itself. Now, in addition to that, here are the Caprice door handles that also, again, match one-to-one to the weave on the car. So these modifications here, full PPF to protect the car, very subtle, but yet again create a very different experience for the car than one that looks like it's sitting like a bus, isn't as aggressive, doesn't sound as aggressive, and of course doesn't look as good. Now, I previously had wheels on this car that I decided to take off for one reason. People said, well, I like the black better, you like the gold better. I said, the beauty with having cars is like having women, they all have more than one pair of shoes, right? The beauty of it though is that one of the things that annoyed me a lot about just the fact that the gold wheels were on was that the gold wheels were basically a 2021 setup. And the 21 setup had a 355 rear tire, and that tire wasn't available in a Pilot Sport Cup that fit this car. So for that reason, it gave me a much smaller tire and did give me that beefy race look. So I decided to go back to the OEM standard with the spacers, the titanium bolts, and it gave me a perfect look. Again, an OEM plus look and much better. Now, let's take a look here at the SVJ. I'm going to explain this to you so you understand exactly the thought process here on how this came out. This is the Hermes-inspired SVJ Roadster. Again, a matte black car protected by PPF to basically clear the entire car and prevent the rock chips. Nothing unique here. All carbon options, fantastic. The interior, the one of one in ad personam bright orange, really brings in out the calipers. Now, the car came with factory black wheels. There's a few flaws in this car when it comes to design, and people don't realize this. The one flaw is that even though this logo is painted and is beautiful and is fantastic, this actual logo has to have a red J. Now, since it's not a sticker, I can't even replace it, and I can't put a sticker over it because the rest is paint, it would look odd. So because of that, there are a few flaws in the fact that there's a red highlight in the car when the car is surrounded by matte black, gloss carbon, original gloss black wheels, and the issue is a bright orange interior, but then we have red here. So there are a few things that need to be switched in order to do that. Now, I'm not a fan of pinstripes, and I'm not a circus monkey or an attention whore like some of you out there putting pinstripes all over your cars, like, look at my diffuser and shit. If you can't tell it's carbon or you need people to know it's carbon, you're retarded. It's carbon. You can tell it's fucking carbon. Look at it. It's fucking carbon. That's it. That's it. So one of the things you do here when it comes to cars, and one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to do pinstripes because it looks retarded, but one of the things you do want to do is when you put wheels on a car and you have a black car and you have an orange interior, you have to find palettes of colors that basically match the two. So brown, bronze, gold bring basically elements of orange and black together. So if you've never had art class, like when you were 12 years old because your parents hated you and they never send you to art class, instead they make you play the fucking piano, well, here in art, they basically tell you that once you mix colors together, like if you put orange into black, you get bronze. So that's how you come to the conclusion, and I know it's fucking mathematically insane to some of you that never graduated 3rd grade, but when you actually put bronze here together with black, you basically have an element that basically connects orange to black. So it's that intermediary of basically the connection to colors, and which is why bronze with the shiny bronze just works really well with the wheels. Why? Because we have shiny black, we have matte black, and we have orange, so now we have 2 tones of bronze, textured and gloss, and we have it work seamlessly in the design. It's still dark enough to look sinister, but it brings out an artsiness that doesn't exist in the factory car. Now, further modifications to this car that you need to be aware of, these will go away and become black just to not add an additional element, and the logos at the bottom will disappear to give the car a stealth look. So the only colors you should see are the orange, the bronze, the black, and just this little piece of red there. So again, this is a little bit heavier modified. You need to lower the car on Novitec, and when you lower the car, you lose the ride quality a lot in the SVJ, so you have to switch and pay attention to expensive tires like the Michelins to be able to offset that difference so that the ride quality comes back, and that is one of the main elements of modifying. Now on this side, we're going to look at 2 heavier modified cars here. The first one being this GT3 RS that is heavily modified, and we're going to talk about that, and then this 1,000 horsepower Ford GT. So the Ford GT, very briefly, the only modifications on the surface of this are wheels, suspension, and the rest of it is all basically internal motors and everything else to get it to the 1,000 horsepower. Now, I did not modify this car. I bought this car modified, and so as a result of that, this is why I wanted a modified Ford GT I could drive. This is why this particular car came here. I think the Ford GT looks very ugly in person when it's factory because it's got small tires and it just looks odd and bizarre to me. So I really like the configuration of this car, so I just basically kept going at it and made it perfect. The factory matte white stripes are made basically matte black, and the car's a 4-option car. The gauges inside are all redone to the newer ones. The HREs make the car. Again, very slight on the outside, but on the inside, very, very well modded engine car. Now here though, on this GT3 RS, this is kind of an OEM Plus configuration, but really what I call more of an OEM modification rather than an OEM Plus. So This is a 16 GT3 RS, and we're going to do a full review of this car, but I want to just point out some of the details that people aren't paying attention to. This is PTS paint. It's a very high sticker. It has all carbon options inside, etc. On the outside, a lot more modifications than first meet the eye have been made to this, and that's what I want to kind of point out. The first one these are Porsche wheels. However, they're from the GT2 RS. These are basically magnesium white gold wheels from the GT2 RS. A very good color to complement the blue. Why white gold instead of gold? Because you can see that there's a lot of white elements here that basically look clear. So the white gold doesn't contrast the blue so much that it brings your attention there. And gold would also lose the yellow calipers, which here it doesn't have that look. So it looks fantastic and a fantastic color choice. Secondly, all of the trim, like the plastic here, sides, on tier, these vents, on the spoiler, have all been upgraded to the 2019 version, to the 0.2 version. So you'll see these are actually slanted up instead of flat. And all of these small details make a significant difference because it refreshes the car to be even newer. And then if we follow me to the back here, there's additional elements. I don't even know if it's open. We can look at that. No, it's closed. But I'll show you the interior next time during the review. But some of the other things you can notice, again, everything here in the 0.2 is done. The yellow race cage has been done. Everything is basically Porsche parts, just remanufactured and engineered in a better way on an older car. Like even this diffuser here, if you follow it all the way to the back, you'll notice that the entire diffuser is not from a 0.2 anymore, but a 911R to match the entire 911R interior. The entire PCM, everything has been upgraded to the 0.2, giving it a much, much newer and better look. This is the most flawless. You can kind of see the interior here with the 911R, but this is one of the most flawless specified GT3 RSs on the market for a 0.1, and in addition to that, the mods really take it up a lot. There's $80,000 in modifications between engine and exterior on this. Those wheels alone were $27,000. It makes a difference. And the thing is, a lot of times people don't realize, in the next video we'll talk about how to spec the dollars for the modifications, but in this particular time, you can really see that this is an outrageously beautiful version of a 0.1. And what we're trying to accomplish whenever we modify a car is not to make it something it's not. Remember what we talked about, design, right, meets function. So you really can't make this into something it's not. You have to just enhance what it is. And that's kind of the way you have to look at modifications across the board. And so we've looked at all this here. I wanted to give you a hint of what it was and how it worked. So today we looked at that as a second part. Next time we're going to take a look at the dollars and how to make sense of dollars on modifications to complete our 3-part modification series. So there you have it. If you learned something new, great. If you didn't, go back to the 3rd grade. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and I'll catch you next time on another Exotic Car Hacks video.